gentlemen, and welcome to Modern Life is Goodish. My name is Dave Gorman. I've got a big screen, a remote control, and a laptop that I have loaded with stuff that I want to share with you. But before we start, I want to start by asking a question of a few members of the audience, and it's nothing personal, don't take it in the wrong way. I'll start with you, sir. How old are you?
I'm 45.
45, very nice to meet you, sir.
17.
17.
28.
28.
28.
28. OK, it's just interesting. And the truth is, I'm not even really interested in how old you individuals are. What I'm interested in is how you answer the question. And I'm pleased to say, I'm delighted to say, that you all answered it with a good, whole, solid, round number. And that, I think we can all agree, that is the correct way for grown-ups to behave, isn't it? I'm checking, because I've got a friend, he owns a small company. He was hiring recently. He came round to my house for a drink one night, and he showed me a CV and said, "What do you make of that? Anything leap out at you?" This is the CV in question. I'm a highly motivated 27-and-a-half-year-old. What the hell is that on your CV? If I say to someone, "How old are you?" and they reply saying 27 and a half, my first thought is, how old are you? Which is weird when that's exactly what they've just told me. 27-and-a-half-year-old who brings a lot of energy to everything I do. Really? How would you describe that energy? Childlike? I had a little look on Twitter to see if other people do this, and they do. This woman, she's a publicist, a freelance writer, a serial blogger, and she's 27 and a half. This man's also 27 and a half. If you fear it, confront it. In his case, adulthood. When you're 4 and a half, the and a half is very, very important to you. When you're 4 and a half, half a year is 1/9 of your life. That is significant. When you're 27 and a half a year is this much of your life. Nobody gives a shit. Now, look, it is possible that these people are doing this under a cloak of irony of some kind. These are just their Twitter bios, after all. It's nothing important. Maybe they just want to appear kooky. But this chap isn't. This is his CV. And nor is this chap. This is from a forum called citydata.com, and this man is asking a question. Given these things, what would be the wiser choice? Buying a house or continuing to rent an apartment? So he's given people a list of criteria, and based on those things, he wants to know whether it is time for him to get on the property ladder. But item number 1 on his list, I'm 28 and a half. I'm 28. Oh, you know, maybe it is time for you to get on the property ladder. Yeah, and a half. Your parents let you rent an apartment? Why do you want to move into a house anyway? Is your apartment too small for all your Star Wars action figures? Nearly 30, going on 10. What is that about? Should he be getting on the property ladder? If your age ends in and a half, the only ladders you should be interested in are the ones that come with snakes. What these people have done is they've misunderstood how scales of measurement work. I'll show you what I mean. If you've got a car journey of, say, 100 miles, which is roughly speaking, 160 kilometres for those who prefer the metric system. It doesn't really matter to me. I think it's true for a lot of Brits. I'm quite comfortable. Metric or imperial doesn't really trouble me. I think sometimes, you're talking to somebody else, it's their story, their journey. I give them ownership of the units. They can decide which system is appropriate for them. Here's an example. This, I'm sure you'll recognise, is a map of the United States of America. And that red line there, ladies and gentlemen, that represents something called the Pacific Crest Trail. That is a footpath. You can walk that route from Canada to Mexico or from Mexico to Canada. One man who did just that is this chap. His name is Andy David Hazy, and he did the walk a little differently because he decided that he would stop every mile of the journey to take a selfie. That is a 2,660-mile walk. That is a lot of selfies. But together, I think those selfies make a fascinating record of how that long walk changed him physically. So, for instance, we start with him here at mile 0 by the Mexican border, and then here, just 1 mile later, obviously there's no real difference. But if I fade that in to mile 2,660, you'll see that by the end of that journey, he has taken his hat off. Now, that is a pretty cool thing to do. He has crossed America on foot, and he has stopped every mile, miles were his choice, to take a photograph. And I can't be alone in therefore thinking that it's just a little odd of the Daily Mirror to cover that story with the headline, "Hiker takes selfie every mile along 4,100-kilometre trail." Why would anyone do that? They are doing maths they don't need to do in order to make their readers do maths they don't want to do. How many pictures did he take? I'm not sure. I'll just get my calculator. Why bother with that? Anyway, my point is this. If you've got this journey, 100 miles or 160 kilometres, it would be weird, wouldn't it, to describe that as 176,000 yards. It would be odder still to describe it as 6,336,000 inches. That degree of magnification makes no sense. Just as when you're 27, trying to count in half years makes no sense. If you were driving and your sat-nav suddenly went, turn left in 18,000 inches. No idea. You wouldn't be able to translate that to the road ahead, would you? Do you ever see something, an advert for something, and you think, oh, hang on, that isn't an unnecessarily specific boast? I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. Which members rated us within the top 2 mattress retailers? Don't know about you, but I'm guessing second. That would be a very generous way of describing first, wouldn't it? This one I saw on the train recently. 92.35% of all London Overground trains ran within 5 minutes of their scheduled time between the 4th of January 2015 and 31st of January 2015. What human being is looking at that and thinking, oh, didn't they do well? Surely we're all thinking, what kind of chaos reigned on the 1st, 2nd and 3rd of January? If you've had to exclude those from your figures, if they would have skewed the odds that much, this must have been pretty bloody bad, mustn't it? That's what this advert says to me, but the truth is that's not really fair on the railway companies. It's not their fault. They are actually obliged to report their punctuality figures in 28-day periods, and that one just happened to end on January the 31st. The next ad would have said from February the 1st to the 28th, and that would have looked completely fine. And the next one would have said from March the 1st to the 28th, and that would have looked a bit weird. And then the next one would have said from the 29th of March to the 25th of April, and that would have looked batshit crazy. This advert looks silly, but it is not their fault. The fault lies with months. Months are not a proper unit of time, are they? A month is either 28, 29, 30, or 31 days long. In common parlance, we talk about a month being 4 weeks long, but they're not. Only February is exactly 4 weeks long, and even then, that's only true 3/4 of the time. 94% of months are longer than a month. We know exactly how many seconds in a minute, how many minutes in an hour, hours in a day, and days in a week. We even know exactly how many months in a year. But the months themselves are a mystery. They chop and change. Let me give you an example, OK? Let's talk about something real, human pregnancy. OK, we've all learnt this all our lives. We all know. How many months are we told an average human pregnancy should last? 9. Very good. 9 months. Now, hands up if you are a parent. OK, parents, how many weeks were you told on average your pregnancy would last? 40. 40 weeks is 10 bloody months, isn't it? 10 months. We've been bilked our whole lives. You spend your whole life as a woman thinking if you get pregnant, it'll be 9 months, and then you get there and you discover it's actually 10. You've been conned, haven't you? Let's look at the year. How many months are there in a year? 12. Exactly. How many weeks are there in a year? 52. Good. However, 12 months, well, 12 times 4 is 48. And 52 minus 4 is 48. Doesn't take a genius to work out we've got 4 extra weeks. And what do 4 weeks make? A month. There are actually 13 months in a year. We are being paid for 12 months' work, and we are doing 13 months' work a year. This is outrageous. This is absolutely outrageous, and I have a solution. I have reformed the calendar. And I will tell you how I'm going to do it after this break of approximately 240 seconds. ladies and gentlemen. Now, before the break, I promised you a reform of our broken and deceptive Gregorian calendar. But let me be clear, it is not just the lack of rigour that I have issue with. I have another issue with months, a linguistic one. These are the months as we know them today. Take a look at the word October. Oct. Think of all the other words you know beginning with oct. Octopus, octagon, octogenarian. Think of all the words you know beginning with dec. Decade, decimal, decathlon. You don't have to be the sharpest linguist out there to realise that sept, oct, nov, dec represents 7, 8, 9, 10. And yet we've put them in positions 9, 10, 11, 12. Why has that happened? I'll tell you why that's happened. It's because of the bloody Romans. Before that, we used to have months called quintilis and sextilis. It used to be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But then the Romans got all egotistical on us. They wanted to name 2 months after their emperors. They named months after Julius Caesar and Augustus Caesar. Can you imagine the ego involved in naming a month after a human being? It's one thing naming it after a god. You know, you've got January after Janus, that's OK. Mars gives you March, that's OK. I mean, if you believe in a god, why wouldn't you want to venerate them by naming something as fundamental as a period of time after them? That makes sense. But not an actual human being. Get your egos out of the game. That is ridiculous. Well, they have confused things by naming July and August so, and then everything got moved around at a later date. So what we're going to do, we're going to correct this system. The first thing we're going to do is sort out the numbering, obviously. So let's call that 7, 8, 9, 10, because they are called 7, 8, 9, 10. That's what they are. So if they're going to be 7, 8, 9, 10, it follows, does it not, that that becomes 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So if that's what the numbers are going to be now, let's move July and August down to there, and let's move January and February down to there. So now we've got all the same months in the same order, it's just the numbering is more appropriate, OK? That's easy. Now, let's remove the egotistical Romans from our calendar. Let's remove Julius Caesar, remove Augustus Caesar. Let's perform a Caesarean section on our calendar. Let's remove them completely and replace them with the months they replaced, quintilis and sextilis, which are now in the right place, 5 and 6. That is the numbering sorted out. We've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, exactly where they should be. Now, obviously, is the time we introduce the 13th month, which, of course, will be Gormanuary. Now, what we've got there is 13 months of exactly 28 days long. Everything ticks over perfectly. March the 1st, New Year's Day, will always be a Sunday because nobody wants to go straight back to work on New Year's Day, do they? And it will always be a Sunday because of the order in the calendar. The 1st of every month will always be a Sunday. The 2nd of every month will always be a Monday. And that means that New Year's Eve, the 28th of Gormanuary, will always be a Saturday. Now, it might have occurred to some of you, that 13 times 28 is 364. And that means we've got a day spare. We can't force the year to only be 364 days long. The year is to do with the stars and the planets. So what we're going to do is, after Gormanuary, we're going to have an intermission. It's 1 day long, and it's not called Sunday, it's not called Monday, it's not called anything. It isn't a day of the week, it is just intermission. It is basically an extended New Year's piss-up. You can go out on New Year's Eve, you don't have to go back until the 1st of March, everything is fine. What happens in intermission stays in intermission. And every 4th year, we have a 2-day intermission, and we call both of those days intermission. That's all it is. That regulates everything. Everything flows in a very orderly fashion from that point on. We have talked previously on this show about the old 30 days hath September rhyme. I think we can all agree that this system improves upon that rhyme. The rhyme now goes 28 days hath March, April, May and June. All the rest have 28 too, because that's how long a month is. There you go. It's much easier. Much easier. I'm confident in this. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the PowerPoint down for a moment. I'm just going to say, any questions? Any questions about the system? Yes, sir.
When are the bank holidays?
The bank holidays, we have the same number of bank holidays as we do now. We spread them evenly throughout the year, very easy. The only difference will be the people we won't let have a holiday are the ones who work in banks. It's an improvement on bank holidays right there. Right there. The lady in the T-shirt.
What if you're born on the 30th or the 31st of the month? Do you just move it along to the next month?
You're asking about birthdays?
Yeah, birthdays.
Yeah, OK, I'm glad you asked. Birthdays. Well, let's use my birthday as an example, because everyone's birthday is going to change in this new system, right? I was born on March the 2nd, 1971. So the first thing you have to do is work out how many days into the year that was. So, for example, in me, it's quite easy. You know, there's 31 days in January in the old system, 28 days in February in both systems, and it wasn't a leap year, so there were just 28 days. 31 plus 28 plus the 2 days take you to the 2nd of March, makes it the 61st day of the year. Then you map that onto the new calendar, OK? Very easily done for this. 28 for March, 28 for April, that's 56. Leaves 5 spare. So my new birthday becomes May the 5th. March the 2nd, 61st day of the year, is May the 5th. And you do that with every day. It's very simple. I've actually got a little guide to help you. This is an old calendar, you know, using the current system, and I've mapped every day onto it, and lots of things are improved by doing this. For example, you know, you want to keep all the nice holidays and festivals and little sort of celebrations we have in life. Like April Fool's Day. We're not getting rid of April Fool's Day, but April the 1st is the 91st day of the year, and so in the new calendar, it becomes Saturday the 7th of June. And I think we can all agree it's going to be much easier to catch people out. Knowing that. That's better. November the 5th. Again, you don't want to move it to the new November the 5th because it wouldn't be getting dark early enough for November the 5th to make sense. So you keep it where it is, you just map it onto the new date. So, for example, if you just find November in the old calendar, November the 5th would be the 309th day of the year, and so it now becomes Sunday the 1st of February every time. And again, that's very easy to remember. You just use the rhyme, remember the 1st of February. So it's just a simple process of mapping things on. That is true for every holiday, every festival going. Very easy. We got one towards the back there, yeah?
Have you changed the star signs, and if so, what's the new 13th one?
My advice to astrologers would be to just keep making it up as they always did. There's no... Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter for them. Yes, a blonde lady down here?
You do know that means there's going to be 13 Friday the 13th in the year.
I do, yes. Every month has Friday the 13th now. Yeah, exactly right. But the thing is, if you have to go through 13 Friday the 13th every year from the day you're born until the day you die, you're going to get over it. It's called exposure therapy. Yes, there's a man down here.
What about things that don't happen on a fixed day, like Easter or Chinese New Year?
Easter, it isn't. You know, that's the thing. It moves around. It's a movable feast at this moment in time. In the new system, we will nail Easter down. We've thought of everything. We're really happy. In fact, just looking through that calendar of the old system, which shows you how complicated it is, we've got a new calendar, and we'll have new merchandise to go with it. So, for example, you could get a calendar like this, right? The thing with this kind of calendar, now, every day is always the same day of the year. It's always a Sunday on March the 1st. We know that. The same system. So what we do with these calendars now, you produce them and they're wiped clean. And then you've got one calendar for the rest of your life. That's less printing, less trees being killed. You can go anywhere. It doesn't have to be a sexy calendar like this. It doesn't have to be, but if it is, that doesn't matter because, like I say, it is wiped clean. So, that's an improvement all round as well, isn't it, really? I'll tell you what, we clearly have a lot more questions still to be asked. What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep taking questions here in the venue while you take a quick commercial break. No, you don't seem to understand, sir. It doesn't matter which calendar we're using. You're just not allowed to marry a cat. It's just not allowed. Hello, welcome back to Modern Life is Goodish, ladies and gentlemen. You join us just in time for the mystery object round. And this week, it's this, which has been sent to us by David Gorman from Stafford, who is me. I'll tell you what it is. It's quite tough. It is a grass. That's what it is. It's a thing that you plug into your car so that it can tell your insurance company how good or how bad you are as a driver. It's a grass that you volunteer to plug into your own car. That there goes into the cigarette lighter, and that bit there tells the insurance company how you're driving. This came to my attention because I have recently re-entered the world of motoring. Obviously, I needed to get insurance, and there were two things counting against me. One, where I live, and two, everything else. What I do for a living, how old I am, how long it is since I last drove, the fact that I don't have a no claims bonus, everything about my life conspired against me when it came to getting insurance. These are genuine quotes from a price comparison website. Yes, exactly. And that is for a second-hand Kia Ceed. They're quoting me more than half the price of the car to get insurance. This is a ridiculous world. Which is why I ended up with one of those devices. This is a thing called telematics. Telematics means they're measuring things. Basically, computing, it's just ones and zeros. They can measure anything now. So I ended up being insured by a company called Bell. There you go. The telematics is what they call it officially. Colloquially, it is known as black box insurance because that's what you plug into your car. Now, let me be very clear. This is not an endorsement. One thing I will say in their favour, I do enjoy receiving emails from them because they have enjoyable subject headings. For example, important information about your Bell policy. What's not to enjoy about that? If you'd have told the 10-year-old me that I would one day be receiving an email saying important information about your Bell policy, I would have said to you, what the hell is an email? No idea. But it is enjoyable. My Bell policy, incidentally, not too loudly and only on a Sunday. It's as simple as that. Now, telematics can work in your favour. This is a story that was in the papers a little while ago. A young lad called Alex Cooper from Oldham. He had insurance from another telematics company, not Bell, a different company, and his car got stolen. But it got stolen by someone who drove better than he did. And as a result, his insurance went down. I've never had my car stolen. Honestly, some guys get all the bloody luck, don't they? Now, with my insurance, what happens is they measure your driving for 3 months. You get cheaper insurance for agreeing to go with it in the first place, and then, if you've been graded as gold or silver, as they call it, you get an extra discount on top of that. So here is an example of my feedback from Bell, and as you can see, I was graded silver. That's okay, I'm going to get a discount. But I don't want to be in the top 2. I want to be gold. And I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what they were measuring. They weren't giving me proper feedback. I don't even know if human beings are involved in the process or if it is just computers. But it occurs to me that it might be someone's job at the insurance company to every now and then get people's charts out and see where they've driven and see if a human being can interpret that data. And I thought, if that's happening, wouldn't it be nice to send them a cheeky little message? Something that charmed them, something that made their rather dull job into not such a dull job just for one afternoon. Thought if I do that, maybe, just out of the kindness of the heart, they will nudge me into gold. I thought I would try and attempt to send them a telematic telegram. To do that, I need a road system with a grid. And it has to be relatively close to London to make it worth my while. The first thought for me was Milton Keynes. Now, in my head, I'm working in that area there. Look at all the straight lines in there. That's something you can work with. That's not a big area. That is 1 mile by 0.4 miles. Very small. But it's a very complicated message that I'm trying to send. I had to plot my route in advance. To check that I had done it correctly, I also put an app on my phone. I'm a cyclist. I've got one of those apps that tells me how fast I was going and how good I was. I know I'm a dick, but I've got one of those on my phone. I turned that on my phone as I was approaching Milton Keynes. So that is the chart that it drew. Now, most of my driving happens down in London, quite close to where I live, just between me and a few shops, doing a few chores, that kind of thing. I thought, if there's a human being working at Bell Insurance trying to interpret that data, they're going to see this jaunt up to Milton Keynes as a bit of an anomaly. They're going to think, I wonder what happened there. Why has he changed the pattern of his driving? I will have a look. And they're going to zoom in on that. And if they do, this is what they'll see. I have driven safely. I have driven safely to the man whose job is to see whether or not I am driving safely. You can't argue with that, can you? If that was your job and you zoomed into that, surely you would think, that is a driver who deserves a nudge. I'll give him gold. Just to prove that I did this, incidentally, because people might think I did this on a computer, you'll see I really did do this thing. This is a wrong turn into an Aldi car park. There you go, mate. Look at that. Look at that. Did I get a discount for that? No, I didn't. My next update came through when I was still bloody silver. Like, come on, guys, I'm trying my hardest. If you're not going to take the hint, I'll do another one. This time, you've got to start a bit further out, because the anomaly is too easy to read if you start any closer in. You'll see why. I didn't actually do that one. I mean, you can do that one. It is a real journey. The M25 is the right testicle. You can make it up from there, I'm sure. Anyone would think I'm bloody 44 and a half looking at that, wouldn't you? Anyway, I didn't do that one. Didn't seem to have any effect. I got my final update, and I did. I was still silver, and I did get a discount, ladies and gentlemen. Your policy premium has been reduced by £23.32. I spent that on petrol going to Milton Keynes and back all the bloody time. I've wasted my money. Then they say, can you please return the device? Where have I got to return it to? Milton Keynes. That's where. Milton bloody Keynes. Now, when I was heading off to Milton Keynes in the car, I was driving out of East London where I live, just heading north. You go under that low bridge there. And as I was doing that the first time, I thought, well, you know, that sign has changed. That sign there. It used to say just 11 feet and 6 inches. And now it says 3.5 metres. Still says 11.6 there, but 3.5 metres is the main thing. This is down to a European directive. It was all over the press at the time. The BBC had a story about it, of course they did, as did the Telegraph. Oh, some of the Telegraph, they were outraged in the Telegraph, they really were. Critics have also expressed concern it could lead to kilometres per hour being introduced on speed signs. This is the thin end of the wedge for some people, and what really matters is what units you're measuring the thinness of that wedge end in. The Mail obviously had it, as did the Times, of course they did. Oh, people were up in arms. And you know me, ladies and gentlemen. I like it when people get upset about things they really shouldn't bother getting upset about. I like to see what those pumped-up people, those sixth-form barristers all full of pomp are saying for themselves. I have been into the depths of the internet, ladies and gentlemen. I've turned the comments I found there, real comments from real people, into something that I like to call a found poem that I would like to perform for you now. Cars don't need to worry about how wide they are. They are car size. They fit. It's lorries and buses that need to worry about this sort of thing. And to be fair, many of them arrive on ferries. If you ask me how tall I am, I will tell you that I am 5'10". Others will answer the question differently. Say 6'2", or 5'9", or even 5'4", in the case of some women. It all depends on how tall they are. Notice anything about these heights? They all end in whole numbers of inches. It's never 1.3 inches or 9.8 inches, is it? Feet and inches are the natural choice for measuring humans, because that's what we grow in. Well, I, for one, am all in favour of metrifying our world. It's just that I think we should wait until all the people who grew up with pounds and ounces, etc., have died first. Before then, it is unfair. Temperature-wise, I was brought up with centigrade, so I get that. But I wish I had got Fahrenheit too, because the 360 degrees of Fahrenheit connects temperature to circles, which is good. Because circles equal harmony, equal life. The speed limit on a motorway is 70 miles per hour. The metric equivalent would be 112.65 kilometres per hour. They are never going to make a road sign that says 112.65 kilometres per hour. And in my considered opinion, it would be illegal of them to change the speed limit to 110 kilometres per hour. Because that would make every journey slower by more than 1 mile per hour. That would make everyone late. In other words, catastrophe. On the other hand, Changing it to 120 kilometres per hour would be too fast. Dangerous. 115 kilometres per hour? Silly. 112 kilometres per hour? Even sillier. Ergo, 70 miles per hour is right. QE2. Fahrenheit was German. Celsius was Swedish. Kelvin was British. So Kelvin is best. End of. I thank you. The Bill Ross String Quartet, ladies and gentlemen. The Bill Ross String Quartet. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back to Modern Life is Goodish, ladies and gentlemen, where tonight we have been talking about measurement, haven't we? And I think measuring things is good, but it's not always good. Sometimes it's unhealthy, because when you measure things, people compete with them. For example, in the past, you would never have been able to measure how popular you were. You wouldn't have put a number on it. You might have been upset one day when not enough people turned up at your birthday party, but you couldn't really quantify it. But now, in an age of social media, everyone knows how many friends they've got on Facebook and how many followers they've got on Twitter, and people want more because they think it makes them look better. It's because of this ridiculous idea, that I find myself getting tweets like this from somebody. Sharpen your social media drive with real followers, 40% discount, and a link. These people are trying to sell followers. And you know these are serious players because they have managed to secure the highly sought-after username, Vailomizuku. These serious players. Now, I could direct my anger at these people, but actually, I think the people who deserve our ire are the people who buy followers. Every time you buy a follower, you are essentially being dishonest. Unless your profile on Twitter says, oh, by the way, I bought these followers, then you are lying to people. You are clocking the mileometer on your car. You are making your Twitter feed look more popular and more valuable than it really is. How many people are doing this? I don't know. But if you go to the website of Follower Sale, you can find a man boasting about it. This is what he has to say.
As the largest Twitter marketing agency on the web, we are delivering well over 5 million followers to over 1,000 clients monthly.
5 million followers to 1,000 clients monthly. That is 5,000 million little lies every month, every March, every April, every Gormanuary. I wanted to know about this. I'm curious. I want to know who is buying followers. I also want to know, what do they get when they buy them? How realistic is it? How convincing is it? Is there a way of finding out? Well, yes, there is. You buy some. And then you have a look. And you see what they're like. And you see who else those people are following. Because if you bought them and other people are following them, the chances are that those people bought them as well. I was tempted, but I didn't want to do it for my account. I didn't want people to think I was buying followers and not know why I was doing it. So I waited. I thought, I can't do it. No, I can't. Yes, I can. No, I can't. And then I suddenly realised I can if I buy them for somebody else. If I buy them for a friend of mine who is doing my head in. So that's what I did. A friend of mine, he set up an account called What Now James. All he does on this account is tweet what he's had for lunch. That's it. One picture every day of his lunch with some pithy comment. And he kept saying to me, go on, Dave, follow me. I think this is going to get traction. It could go viral. I think in a few weeks, people are all going to be saying, oh, what's James had for lunch? What now, James? I'll have a look. I said, I don't want to follow you, James. I don't need to follow you. I work with you. You're having your lunch in front of me. It's on the desk in front of me. I can close my eyes and smell what you're having for lunch. But of course, he cajoled me, and he's a friend, and I like him, and so I signed up and I followed him, as did another friend who works with us, a guy called Nick. So he's got 2 followers. It's me and Nick following James, and we're having lunch with him. And while we're having lunch with him, our phones are beeping, and we're looking at photos of the things that are there on his desk. And he was not getting any other attention. It's just me and Nick and him, and it's all a bit pathetic. Basically, he's tweeting things like this. Plans for demi-ploughmans today, and cheeky homemade chicken and sweet corn, and just a pile of the good stuff today. And we're going, yes, I know. But then I noticed a subtle change in his behaviour. He starts tweeting things like, I caved, FC and the peas. Nobody on this earth, least of all this man, refers to fish and chips and peas as FC and the Peas. It's not KC and the Sunshine Band, is it? That's not a backing band, that's just fish and chips and peas. And incidentally, James, you didn't cave. We all had fish and chips that day. It was an office treat. Yeah, that's right, scrambled egg on pizza, he says. Why not? I think the question you're going for there is why. And I think the why is because you think it makes you more interesting to people. And he believed it in this instance because, as you can see, this one had 104 retweets and 103 favourites. I paid for those. I thought it would be funny to mess with his head. He's going on at us about his Twitter. I thought, well, let's make him think his Twitter is red hot all of a sudden. I also bought him a load of followers. He went from 2 followers to 1,105 overnight. I paid for 1,000. They over-deliver, I'll tell you that much straight away. A little while later, I let it bubble away at 1,105 for a while, and then I bumped him up, ladies and gentlemen, to 2,882. My plan, as I was doing this, was I'm just going to keep bumping him up to about 3,000 or 4,000, and then I'm going to call the company I'm buying them from and just say, take them all away. No harm done, a little cautionary tale for James about the idiocy of wanting more followers for nothing. So I thought that was the idea, but then it turns out, when I called the company, they said, we can't do that. It's out of our hands. He's got them. And so the truth is, James is finding out about this now. Because he's at the show. And we've been hiding this bit of the show from him for the last few weeks. The best thing was, he got these retweets on that one and then nothing on all of the other tweets. And you can see he's really anxious. He's thinking, what did I do that day? Why did that one get 100 retweets and none of the others are getting in? And he got all these followers. No one seems to care. And so I was waiting, biding my time, and I started saying to him, I think it's the eggs. You put scrambled eggs on pizza, I think that set people off. He went, really? He went, yeah. He said, all right, I'll try it again. So then he tweeted, what's better than last night's spaghetti? Scrambled egg on last night's spaghetti. 103 retweets, 102 favourites. Put the credit card down. Blew his mind. Blew his mind. Now he's obsessed with eggs. I'm telling you, that boy hasn't had a shit in 2 weeks. He's chasing the dream of being high and eating eggs every bloody lunchtime. I was doing this for shits and giggles, the two things that James isn't getting out of it. But don't forget, I also want to know who these people are. Who else is being followed by these people, and how convincing are these people? Well, let's take a look. These are not the followers I bought for James. These are normal followers of a regular account. These are people who are following Gary Lineker. OK. Now, obviously, the lawyers here have made me blur their faces. They haven't consented to be on the telly, so I've blurred their faces, obviously. But you can see they've got avatars, they've got background photos, they've got biographies. James's followers came largely in 2 types. The first lot looked like that. As you can say, oh, sorry, the lawyers have asked me to blur their avatars as well. I don't think the lawyers understand Twitter, but there you go. The other type of follower that James had looked like that. At first glance, quite convincing. Quite convincing. But then you look at their usernames and you realise it's all gobbledygook. And not just all gobbledygook, but all gobbledygook that follows the very same pattern. Every single one of those usernames is letter, letter, number, letter, number, letter, letter, number, letter, number. What a weird coincidence that is. Hundreds of these side by side. If you take a closer look at any of them, for example this one, you see he's got a biography. And his biography says, Clemson University alumna, 24 years young, I party, and bullshit. Yeah. And if you Google those words, you find that lots of other people have had that phrase as their Twitter biography over time. And if you click through to any of these accounts, you will discover the same message every time, account suspended. It's not looking very convincing for these either, is it? Now, the juicy bit. These are not very convincing. Who else are they following? I mean, if I've bought 1,000 followers and it turns out 800 of them are also following somebody else, I'm going to suspect that that somebody else is also buying followers, aren't I? I found a TV gardener, a successful singer, the president of Rwanda, and a sash window company based in East London, ladies and gentlemen. Now, don't get too excited by the TV gardener and the successful singer. They're American names. It's not Titchmarsh, it's not Aled Jones. The TV gardener's a man called Jake Moss. He hosts a show on a small network. The singer's quite successful. Clay Aiken, he came second in American Idol one time. Both of them, hundreds and hundreds of followers. I'm more interested in the president of Rwanda. The president of Rwanda has followers of this kind, the kind of people I bought for James. His name is Paul Kagame. He had 1,749 followers in common with James. But my favourite of all of these is Core Sash Windows, an East London windows company. These people, I'll tell you how I worked this out. I didn't go counting all of the followers by hand. I used a website called Follower Wonk. Follower Wonk lets you compare the followers. This is what it looks like when you compare Core Sash Windows and What Now James. The important numbers are down here. As you can see, What Now James, he was being followed by 1,105 people when I ran this check. 1,103 of them were following Core Sash Windows. That leaves 2 people who have not been bought. That's me and Nick. Every single follower I have bought happens to be following Core Sash Windows. That's 100% of the accounts. I sent them a little tweet saying, hello, odd question. Have you ever bought Twitter followers? And they replied quite promptly saying, hello, nope, never bought. Why do you ask? So I picked up the phone and I gave them a call. I said, hello, can I speak to whoever's running the Twitter account? I just exchanged a couple of tweets with them. They said, certainly, won't be a minute, I'll put you through to Ryan. Ryan picked up the phone. I said, hello, Ryan. He said, Dave, what makes you think that we have bought followers? I said, well, it's a funny story, really. I bought a load of followers for my friend James. I was just messing with him. I was going to delete them in the future. Anyway, I just looked to see who else they're following, and every single one of them is following you. And he said, ah. Yeah, it's a bit weird. We didn't pay for followers. It was a mate of mine, and he started getting a bit worried, and then he went, is this going to be in a thing? And I said, yes. It's probably going to be in a thing. And he said, can I come to the thing? And I said, of course you can. And I tried to explain why it seemed so weird. I said, look, you can't be the biggest Windows company on the internet. Microsoft have got that nailed down. You can't. You've got more followers than British Gas, man. This is ridiculous. You're an East London Windows company. He went, I know. It got a bit out of hand. I'll be honest, I thought he was making this up. He blamed it on one of his rugby mates. He said, look, I've got a friend. He's so technical. We're a new company. We want to be big online. The boss is keen on that. I said, you know, anything we can do? He said, look, I'll get you 20,000 followers and they'll be local. And then they weren't local. And we ended up with 56,000. And they're in Taiwan, and they're in America, and in Saudi, and it doesn't make sense. And then you called. I got off the phone to him, went on Twitter, and they tweeted again, saying, we have more followers than British Gas Media. Thanks, Dave Gorman, for the information. Speak soon. P.S. Don't forget the tickets. I admire the chutzpah. Well done them. They know what's happened. And he should be here tonight, but a couple of days ago, he decided he didn't want to come after all. But I didn't believe him, and then I did believe him because his friend got in touch. The rugby-playing friend who had provided these followers for him. He got a bit chippy. He wasn't graceful in defeat. He wasn't thinking, all right, yeah, I did it, all right. And he decided he wanted to enact revenge. And as revenge, he bought me 3,000 followers. Take that, Gorman. See how you like the illusion of being marginally more popular, yeah? And the weird thing is, I don't think everybody involved in the channel understands how this has all panned out. Because I told them what had happened. I said, look, I've ended up with 3,000 fake followers on my account. And the producer said, oh, good. I hope they all watch. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. Especially the real people out there, the fake ones. I don't know who I'm talking to. I'll see you soon. Good night.